is money.
It's nothing.
Balling. Premium or nothing.
When them or nothing.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Now you know.
Welcome back. Hey. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
All right. So we're going to settle in. We're going to start with our mindfulness. Perfect. And I'm going to do a guided mindfulness focusing on our bodies today. So I ask that you get into your mindfulness position. And we're going to start with 3 cleansing breaths. And as you inhale, I want you to inhale. My body is mine, and I want you to exhale. I release everything that no longer serves me. Good deal? All right, let's start with our first inhale. Exhale. Second inhale. My body is mine. Moment, I want you to just imagine a place, a time, an experience, or a memory that brings you comfort. While you are in that place, I want you to imagine yourself sitting, looking around, getting your body comfortable with where you are. And notice the different sensation that you feel while sitting in this place that's your own. I want you to allow your mind to connect with the memories of the place. Connect to the colors and the sound that you hear. And just allow your body to fully be immersed into that place. Touch your hands on the ground wherever you are, if there is a ground. Notice the texture of that. Whatever surface you're sitting in, just imagine how that feels. This is your place. This is your body. This is your comfort. Taking deep breaths if you need to, just relax any tension or any experience that you feel that brings about discomfort in your body, and just lean into the space that you're in, that you call your own. you to get up from the place that is your own. And I want you to walk towards a place you would like to go to. A place that you probably haven't been to, but have thought about going to. And just imagine yourself walking into that space. How does your body feel to be walking into an unknown space, but a place that you know you want to go? Notice your thoughts of curiosity. As you walk into that space. Explore the space, the same way, the colors, the sound, and even people. As you reside in this space, notice this is the place where you're going to belong. Where you belong, and that place is actually your own. It's your new space. And I want you to take a deep breath in. Inhale through your nose. Exhale. And bring yourself back as you leave this space into this present moment whenever you're ready. I switched it up on y'all a little bit.
That was a bit much.
I was
Okay, you had some thoughts. Let's process with Daphne first then.
Okay.
All right.
So how was that experience for you?
Interesting. It was interesting. I found myself keep going in different areas that I was like, wait, you're supposed to be mindful. So I find myself thinking about something else. I find myself I don't know. I just keep having to redirect. Okay, come back, ground yourself, take a deep breath in. Like I said, I realized okay, you tense your back, relax your shoulders, your jawline. Why is it tense? Unclench your teeth, open your mouth a little bit, let the air comes out. And your butt cheeks first, I was clenching it too, and I don't know why. Everything was clenching. It was not.
So it's like inner dialogue was a way in which that helped you kind of return back to your commitment and to the anchor.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you're not where you're supposed to be. You're wandering.
Yeah.
Like the wandering spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I did hear you say that you are being mindful, right? And we always want to remember that really being mindfulness is just being present in the moment with whatever comes. So it sounds like you were quite mindful and noticing quite a bit about your body.
Yeah.
You were able to also bring yourself back over and over again when you did notice that other things were being present. So I like to look at those, what other people may call as distractions, as just more moments to be present with yourself.
Yeah.
More
For
opportunities or reminders around what's actually going on in this.
But how do you limit that though? Is it just come with practice?
Yeah. But essentially, and maybe there will be opportunities where you can't limit it. I think a part of being open in your mindfulness experiences is just being welcome to whatever.
Right? To
And
where
so
you are.
There might be some moments where I'm able to really be locked in and not really pulled away by anything. And there might be some moments like today where you are kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
But you can still be present with yourself during that.
I read something, it's just realizing that the images or whatever it comes, but allowing it to pass through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Same.
So I was like,
Having a curious detachment from
attachment,
your experiences.
Yeah. Just kind of be able, observing it and just not let it
Consume
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
I would say for the mindfulness, while I was following along, I definitely got consumed with different things. I found myself having a lot of questions about the directives that you were giving. I was like, well, what is a time and a place where I feel comfortable and I feel myself in like kind of like almost flipping through options of like moments. And then also like when you had instructed us to like look around while we are in that chosen space, like seeing myself looking like almost transporting to that time and like looking at the different things. And then also then having thoughts being not more thoughts, thinking being evoked at that point around what that means and what that looks like and all of this other stuff. And then getting lost to the point that like I didn't even hear maybe some of the things that you might have been saying
The
to
other
us.
prompts, yeah.
And then you would say something and then I would bring myself back to it. And what I liked about my experience was that I wasn't judgmental when I did miss those things, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, like, you know, like, get it together, like, but it was very much just like, oh, okay, like, let me tune back in. And I didn't engage in the inner dialogue, but Daphne, early in my mindfulness practice, I did. I think it was one of the beginning ways, like, to almost like the training wheels to help me bring myself back. And then eventually, after more and more practice, the inner dialogue is less, and I'm just able to direct myself back once I noted that cue of your voice. So just keep practicing and keep, you know, and for those of us out there who continue to have that inner dialogue, that's just part of your experience, your strategy that you use to return back to the anchor. After some time, just challenge yourself to not give yourself that directive and see if you can still return back to the commitment without that. And, you know, just keep trying.
Yeah.
What about you, Tyler?
I noticed right away that I was able to get to my space. Like and before you even gave prompts around colors and what it looked like, I was already there. I'm like, pink sand, blue water. I'm feeling the sand in my hands. I'm particularly thinking about a particular time that I was in that space where it felt very like freeing for me and like a transition in my life. So when you prompted us to get up and leave, I noticed some willfulness around like, I don't want to go. In fact, I want to get on a plane and go there right now.
Yes.
So I did experience that willfulness of not wanting to engage in the prompt. And at some point I was able to just say, okay, I too engaged in some of my inner dialogue. Like, okay, you don't have to resist this. It's okay. You can always come back to this space. So I think that there was a little bit of like anxiety around like, oh no, I miss it here. I'm safe here. I like being here.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that was mostly my experience. I didn't really notice too much outside of that though. I didn't really notice too many sensations or any sensations in my body at all or anything that was not related to the exercise.
What does a smile then? Because I remember when I got to my place, I smiled. I said, "Ooh."
Yes.
Yeah, that is.
Is that a
That's
sensation?
just youthful. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, that is like a sensation, a bodily response to you being in your happy
Space.
space.
You expressed being in that space. I know when you had given the directive of even like touching the ground, I chose to open my hand and touch the couch and noticing the words that I was coming in contact with that like were words that I hadn't used before, like coarse and what's it called, suede and smooth and all of those different things, right? And so like that was showing just how in tuned I was to the experience, right? So something as subtle as touching the couch can be something you are very mindfully engaged with.
Yes,
for sure.
What was yours like, ma'am?
Mine was, I went in with the mindfulness really wanting to put myself and ourselves in a space that is comfortable for us, and also looking into a space that is unfamiliar but that we've been excited to go to and seeing and noticing the difference that the body would respond to. And I know it will be a long mindfulness, and it's okay to do that because sometimes we do need that. So for me, going into my space was more like a memory of an experience that I've had that I totally enjoy. And then
transcending to a new space, there was a sense of an increase in my heart rate that I noticed, but I also noticed that I started smiling physically around going into it, and there's an excitement for me around the unknown, but also knowing like this is actually a place where I want to be, where I want to go, that I'm looking forward
Right
to
now.
going. Exactly. So for me, it was like you've never been, but you're excited about going and imagining just being in that space and having that space own it. Also, I had the thought of that space being my body. So then I was like going into myself and noticed a different sensation in how I feel. And I noticed wanting to adjust myself, but I was like, no, just like go with it. This is your space. This is where you are. So repeating the mantra that I had said in the beginning was also a grounding of redirecting.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah.
Thank you for your offering.
Thank you. All right. So if y'all wondering the stranger in the couch,
Danger.
you know, but you may notice some facial structures that are similar to mine. You may notice she takes her beauty from mine.
Wow. Just like a younger sibling, talking shit already.
Yeah,
I would like to introduce to the couch.
Nothing to do with our mother.
Yeah. I would like to introduce to the couch. She's new to the couch, but she won't be a foreigner to it. My sister Daphne Altima.
Hey,
She is a licensed nutritionist, and she is also, the mother of 2 of my children.
An all-around hot gal.
And yes, who's also single. But either way, ready to mingle, so you can shoot us.
Very unnecessary.
Because we became a dating
Okay. So, and saying that, Daphne,
Team
welcome
too
to the
much.
couch.
Team too much.
I am team too much.
Yes.
Welcome to the couch. And
Thank
she
you.
is my older sister, and isn't she pretty, y'all?
We're happy to have you. You look
thank
great.
you.
Daphne, you look wonderful. Tell us a little bit about you.
Tell me, but first of all, she's rude. Isn't she rude?
That's your sister.
That is my sister. I do love her though. She's all right with me. Tell a bit about Daphne. This is me. This is Daphne. So, but first, thank you for having me, and thank you for this, nice long mindfulness activity that we did. It was really good. She knows I need stuff like that a little bit more in my world. So that was a treat. A little bit about me. I am a licensed registered, dietitian. I call myself typically a public health journalist. The reason because I do that is because, yes, I am. No, it's okay. She's going to do this throughout. It's okay. But it's because I've been in public health for, over 2 decades. Yeah. Well over 2 decades, and it's been different thing. I've been an epidemiologist for the state health department. I've worked in infectious diseases. I've done global health work. I've managed grants, done cancer research, and within
some writings.
yes, I've done some writings, and most probably for the past 10 years, I've changed career directions really to focus on food, and that direction was intentional because when I was a senior epi for the state health department, I realized that those that were doing some of the community outreach to the communities that are most in need did not necessarily, could not relate to them, or did not necessarily look like them. And sometimes there is power in that, right? There's power in understanding someone's culture. There's power in understanding how people eat and why people fellowship and so on. And so I decided at that time, as crazy as it seems, she knows how chaotic it was to go back to school.
Yeah.
And I went back to school to become a registered dietitian. And so fast forward to 10
Can I slow
years.
you down real quick?
Yeah.
The reason why you also went is that our culture relationship with food.
Yes,
Like,
yes. I forgot that part. That is
why-
actually a
yeah.
very important part. Thank you for that reminder, because that's actually
training.
part of my write up. I had to write to get into school was talking about how I was fascinated by I'm here when we came to this country. I'm here listening to these people talking about Haiti, the poorest country in the
wasn't your
hemisphere,
experience.
and that was not my experience. I was like, what country they talking about? This was not me. I wasn't I wasn't famished. I wasn't hungry. I didn't have any issues. I remember
You didn't live in a hut?
I
We
lived
live
in
in no hut.
listen,
We
no
live well.
huts. I had light, electricity, and everything. So you know,
the
all the worlds. So it wasn't mine. But the thing that was fascinating to me as I get older, as I get into public health, was that, you know, our family, they were doing well. You know, a grandmother lived until 97, her sister 102, 103, our grandparents, like longevity was it. And it just dawned on me, you know, it wasn't pharmaceutical interventions that, you know, that we see that's so prevalent nowadays. It wasn't modern medicine. It was eating from the ground.
What you consume.
What you, it was what they were consumed. They ate what was on the land, which is what you see culturally from a lot of, you know, West Indies and African countries, a lot of other countries, Asian countries that you see, you know, they ate what they grew, and there is power in that, right?
Yes.
And there's community. There's a lot of walking. There's not a lot of those things that we had, and so
Like trading with your neighbor,
exactly,
look for goods and things of that nature.
yeah. And so that was the thing. I said, well, there's something to that, and so that actually was part of, you know. I went back and I said, well, you know, let's see. I think I have something to offer.
Yeah.
And then I went back and it's been incredibly rewarding. I am an adjunct faculty at Howard University where I get to give back. I said that opportunity, it not only allows me to, you know, educate and just trying to get those that, you know, there's, in the field of dietetics, I believe only 3% of them are, you know, Black or brown.
Period. 3%.
3%. So it's not a lot. So when, you know, it's really wonderful to, you know, come across students that are interested, you know, and that to encourage them, like, you can do it. And it's just lovely to me when I'm teaching or one of the TAs have said, I can't wait to get where you are. I'm like, oh, God, thank you.
That's
you know what I
sweet.
mean?
That's
so
sweet.
that's wonderful. And so I've been doing that. So I do that. I am a freelance, you know, dietitian where I work in long-term care nursing homes, or I, you know, do one-on-one counseling.
Yeah.
Started your business?
I did that. And also I'm a researcher at Johns Hopkins University. So it's been a wonderful journey. I'm continuously learning. The field of nutrition is changing. There's a lot of stuff that is true. There's a lot of stuff that are
That's not
false.
true. Bias.
There's a lot of myths.
false.
There's a lot of myths. There's, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, being a dietitian, going to school, doing our training. Our training is not, you don't go to school and become a dietitian. Like, you have to do the 4-year degree. You have to have your internship, which is unpaid, y'all.
Well, we can relate to
For a
that.
year.
Right,
That's what I mean. Like, you know, and we have to do that. In addition to that, you know, you have to maintain continuous education. There's just so much to it. And what we do is evidence-based. It's backed by evidence. And so it's been really rewarding. It's been a rewarding experience. So that's kind of like, that's Daphne.
I love that. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to have you, Daphne.
Aw,
I think
yay.
that the relationship between food and mental health is so important and so relevant, particularly to people of color, how that relationship and experience with food is really impactful for like how we eat, what we choose to eat, how we have access to food. So
Yep.
I'm excited to get into our discussion
Let's
today.
get into it, Miss Tyler. Let's get into it.
All right. So let's get into our confessional.
Okay.
And my dietitian gave me a 3,000 calorie diet.
I'm feeling conflicted about the diet my nutritionist gave me. At 25 years old, slightly overweight, with a 26.4 BMI and high cholesterol, I know I need to make changes and I want to be healthier. But being told to eat only 1,300 calories a day feels extreme. I'm 5 feet 9 inches, 175 centimeters, and 178 pounds, 81 kilograms. This just doesn't seem like enough fuel for my body. I felt constantly hungry the past few days, and I can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. I don't snack much, and I'm mostly sedentary during the day since I work at a computer, but I still get in about 4 hours of cycling each week. According to every calorie calculator I've found, 1,300 calories is below my BMR, which means I'd be eating less than my body needs just to function. Trying to trust the professional advice I was given, but I can't ignore how miserable and drained I feel. Should I just push through this and hope my body adjusts? Or is this a sign that I need to see a different dietitian? I don't want to fail at this, but I also don't want to end up feeling worse, physically and mentally, on a plan that isn't sustainable. If anyone has been in this situation, how did you handle it?
All right. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh man, so I think just by listening, 1,300 sounds low
Yeah.
for a male. Giving that, where did the 3,000 calorie come from? Kilocal come from? I didn't.
They didn't even say like
Yeah.
so that.
So going
information-
from 3,000 to 1,300 is a little confusing to me because that's like definitely more than half of what he used
Right.
to consume. And based on his height and the information he provided, I think the number. First of all, kudos to you for going online to find a calculator. Basal metabolic. Your BMR, which is basal metabolic resting. Rate. Kudos to you for finding that. But that's basically what you will need at rest. So
Yeah.
it doesn't take into account your physical activity. It doesn't
Right.
take into account how hard you're working, etc. So that only, if it's the right calculator that I think you're talking about, I believe it takes into account your age, your gender as male, your current weight, and your height. But it doesn't factor into your activity.
And just to be
Level.
clear, the BMR is just like what your body needs in order to just like do the
At
regular
rest,
stuff.
at rest,
Okay.
just for your body, the metabolic process in which your body goes through, just at rest. Nothing, that's what it needs for your body to function. That's
Yeah,
basically
just
what
to
it is.
function, not
Just to
doing
function,
anything
not doing anything
else.
else.
Like your
Mhm.
organs
Yeah.
to do
No,
everything that it needs to
yes, exactly. For your
Gotcha.
body to do the processes that it needs to do, that's basically what that is, right? That's just a minimums. To maintain that, and that will maintain, the weight in which that you're in. But it doesn't, the 3,000 calories may have been a little bit more, but usually we put you in a calorie deficit.
Right.
So, to help you lose that weight. But I'm happy to look at this more,
Yeah.
giving that
I think
gave
there
you
is some more
Yeah, he has some more
details.
detail, but he actually did provide you quite a bit of data for me to tell you, for me, he provided his current weight, his current activity level, which is awesome. In the U.S., you want to at least 150 minutes of rigorous activity. So,
Yeah.
so which seems like he's getting that, which
Yeah.
is awesome. So I say keep doing that. 1,300 kilocalories is low because, some of the questions I will ask, like, are you feeling hungry? But what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like, you know what I mean? Are you hungry in between meals? How much are the meals that you're getting? Like, for example, like what type it is. Do you have proteins? What type of protein are you getting?
Yes.
Did
Yeah.
he say what his culture was? Or was it assumed?
No, but I assumed because he used some UK lingo.
so
like
that-
I
yeah.
assumed that they were from the UK.
They're
But
from the UK, yeah.
They're from the UK, but I also think what was interesting, he did say that he is hungry.
yeah,
He did
Yeah, well,
say
that's
that,
what was
he
concerning to me,
is
yeah.
which to me, because just for our viewers and stuff, calorie deficit, because I just know it from my own personal things, is where you eat less
Yeah.
than what your like.
Recommended.
What? Yeah. So let's say, for me, we can use me as an example. Typically, about 2,000 kilocalories for my not doing anything, right? For my current,
That's your BMR.
yeah,
would be
like
2,000.
for about just
Okay.
like at the level with me not doing sedentary, not doing any activity. It's just about that. Maybe it's about a little lower than that. But for me to be in deficit, you know what I mean? If I want to lose weight, I'll typically they say about decrease that by 500 kilocalories, 500 to 750.
Yeah.
Vary based on what your lifestyle factors, etc. And multiply that by 5, and that equates to about losing about a pound of fat per week. But it's such
There's so much more that goes
exactly.
into it.
It's so
but
complicated.
I wanted to be clear that the deficit, because our person that just did this, you are in a deficit, but the deficit that
Yeah.
you're in is
Might be too
1,700
significant.
calories. 'Cause
That's
he
what I'm
said
saying.
he
The
was
3,000, yeah.
consuming 3,000
Yeah.
to go to 1,300. That is going to get your body into starvation,
Right.
which is then going to probably set
Affect-
you
slow
up
down
to
that metabolism.
for failure. It's just it doesn't.
Yeah.
But then it will affect the mental health around
mental
like,
health,
Exactly.
physical health, and then
if
the
your body goes
rebound.
into the starvation.
And
There
the
you go,
likelihood of
there
like
you go.
binge
And
eating and some
yes.
of these other
Yeah.
things. So like the
Yeah.
deficit is you only really need 500. So an appropriate thing with very limited information you know about this person would be 25 to what? 22.
Yeah, 22, 25. But again, he's cycling. You need to
Right.
take that into account. He's
Yes.
doing he's
It's
Four
also
cycling.
hours
giving,
of
I'm not gonna
cycling is
lie,
a
it's
lot.
giving some like body dysmorphia and or like
I mean, it could, but
this
the
eating disorder type because of I feel like it's a tricky thing around what he's being told and what he's doing, which can be confusing to
Yeah.
people. I know for me, who struggled with eating disorder in the past, is around a nutritionist. I've had several of them, but my sister is the right one. But a nutritionist can tell you one thing, but at the end of the day, it is your core body. But when you're giving two messages, like my physician will give me one thing, then the physician will send me to a
see how
nutritionist, and
confusing
the
it- yeah.
nutritionist will give me something different.
That's confusing.
So I think for him, it's a sense of this is how things happen, and he builds up, because when there's not a sense of consistency, what's right and what's right, then you left to do things yourself.
Yeah.
And my question is always like, how is BMR culturally considered? How are like the
That
measure?
part.
I mean, BMR.
Yeah.
How is that culturally considered? How are we looking at even the calorie deficits and like the need for calories in a way that is culturally considerate per individual versus just this like blanket idea? This is what we're supposed to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's different. Dietetics should come from an individualized place.
Yes.
Right? Taking into account cultural factors, lifestyle factors, medical condition, genetic history, all of that, right? BMI, I typically don't like to use, which you mentioned, but BMI really is just height to weight.
Yeah.
That's body composition. They don't take into account anything all this. So typically when you have different cultures, if you're more like voluptuous or whatever, you may not have an issue.
They don't count the curves, Jay.
It may be an issue.
They be missing it.
But the biggest thing is we have to be mindful about, which I am very sensitive to, is I am not very quick to make extreme cuts, changes to anybody. And this is only my opinion, but I am going through the journey with you.
Yeah.
I meet you where you are.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? And so when we get so restrictive, and what happened is like, well, you're doing this so much so fast. You're not giving his body nor himself or his mind time to really process the change that needs to happen for him to do what he needs to do. There is an education component that comes with that. That was like, okay, well, what is hyperlipidemia? Why do you have high cholesterol? First of all, what are the tests that your doctor did to say you have high cholesterol?
Right.
You know what I mean? They had to do a blood lipid panel, and within that, there are, for the general one, you have your total cholesterol, triglyceride, your HDL. Explain to him what that means. What foods that he needs, to eat to increase that HDL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is what we call the good cholesterol.
Yeah.
And what foods that he needs to decrease to, decrease the LDL, which is the one that's considered the bad cholesterol. And what does that mean?
Yeah, you told me that, girl.
And, but I'm saying, taking into account that, going from 3,000 to 1,300, it's just like, oh my goodness.
And I need some more information.
I need some more information why, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so.
And what am I even consuming in that 1,300
calories?
Right.
That
matters.
That's why I like the fact that you said you're using our good dialectical language here of saying that, like, there's good fats and bad fats.
There you go.
It's not really as simple as that, right? They say, oh, you need to consume this amount of calories, but they don't tell you what foods need to make up the calories that you're taking, right? And how, and also the ingredients, the I believe there's like the macros of it that are also important. I found like after a while, even again in my own personal thing, that like macros are even more important as the calorie like intake that you're taking in. How much protein, how much carbs, how much fats that you're taking in, especially if you're wanting certain goals.
Correct.
Right? Because I'm even looking at what he said. He's 5'9", 178
This is what I'm saying.
That doesn't seem...
Overweight.
Like,
But that's
Look, if you give me a minute, I can pull it all out and I can calculate that for you.
For a male.
And how old is he?
25.
Yeah, 25.
I'm going to send you a message to tell you how much you need to consume.
And I think what he's stuck on, it was the BMI.
Yeah.
The BMI, I believe, was 28 point something, which is
What, 28? It was 28?
26,
right?
26.4.
So, which is actually considered overweight.
It's,
right.
That's what I was going to say.
It's like
overweight.
It's not even obese or whatever.
It's not any of those things. But I think depending on your history, also, we live in a diet culture.
Listen. Yes.
We live in a culture where, and we're starting to come back to skinny,
I
double
wanna get
zero,
into that.
XXX. Like, so, like, to some extent, some of the things that this person is bringing into the room, I think, is an after effect of the things that are going on in the world. Because when we look at it, a 25-year-old male who's 5'9" and 178 pounds does not seem like something of concern.
Right.
But maybe the way that he is shaped, right, is what is causing the concern, right? Because I know for me, a lot of people are saying that, like, the way you carry the weight isn't as much as, it's not a health thing unless there's certain markers that tell you, right? They say, like, if you hold certain things in your but you hold them as a male and it feels like you have to go through is it hard versus it being soft? Is it like, there's so many things that go into that.
There is different shapes for the female, like where the weight is. If the weight for a female is, for anybody, is around here, right? It's close to your heart, so that's not good. But if it's around your hips, then that's fine. So you got to really, central adiposity in different way where the fat where you're holding it. Yes, it influences. But the bigger thing for me is that not even muscle weight or whatever is what he said. His doctor actually said, you having some, you have high cholesterol, right? And so that's the bigger issue for me at this point, right? Because then you somehow, your doctor, I'm assuming, conducted a test,
right?
Where, to see, have your biomarkers said, hey, this is concerning. And it is concerning because we do know, eventually weight, overweight and obesity is a risk factor for these things, to include high blood pressures, diabetes, and hyperlipidemia. You know what I mean? And so that is concerned. That's why he has to address it, right? But it's just like the how has to come the individualized aspect of it, right? And so, but we don't want him.
Losing weight is not the only way to
reduce well, there is actually, what are you eating? Like, what is it that you're putting? What is it that you're putting in it? Like, what are your foods coming from?
So losing weight is not necessarily the
you know
first
what I mean?
thing to eat.
No,
I gotta know.
Because you gotta think about your sodium and I live with
you
gotta think about your sodium intake. You gotta think about the oils and different stuff that you are using.
The type of fats
the type
you
of fats
consume.
that you consume. Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean? There are
that
different
in
type of
itself
fats.
feels consuming. Like just thinking about all the things.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. But the type of meats,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean. You mentioned macros, so when a lot of people, especially if you're in the weight industry, bodybuilding industry, you'll hear them thinking about macros a lot. And those are, your carbs, your proteins, and your lipids, right? And so typically, carbs has a bad, that's the thing.
Rap.
Like, my gosh. But guess what, folks? You need your carbs.
You
do.
You need your carbs.
Energy source.
Is the number
Exactly.
one. Your body, use glucose as the number one fuel source. That's what it is. What it does. That's what it prefers. That's what your cells prefer. So you need them. But again, going back, what type of carbohydrates are you eating?
part.
And
So
also
what does
talk about
that
the
mean?
effects of carb because you some education,
Yeah, it
some
depends.
conversation
Yeah,
around,
it depends.
mental
Like,
health and
right.
how that
We
the
have
mood, how it affects the mood.
Yeah, so we have different type of carbs, right? You have complex carbs, and you have the refined sugars, the refined carbs. So that's where you're thinking your white rice,
That's the simple. That's
your
what they call
donuts,
simple
simple
carbs.
sugars. Yep, your simple sugars, simple carbs. You have those, and your body is spike your blood sugar and goes down. And those usually, when you think about your donuts, your refined carbs, they don't really. You go to Dunkin' Donuts, get a donut.
They're not providing you nutrients.
They're not.
really.
They're not what I call nutrient dense.
Yeah.
Which means that they're just high in sugar, and just that's about it.
And how does that affect your mood? Like you were telling
I mean, well, you crash. Like, you have this like spike in blood sugar,
Yep.
and after that, you realize like you feel bad. You feel bad. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't really do anything for you because it's not, it's not feeding your
But
cells.
it's also not. It's not a longevity. That's what
No,
I'm hearing.
yeah,
that you're
it's
saying
not-
is that,
no.
like, you'll eat the donut, and within maybe 10 to 20
Listen,
minutes after
you
you
want
consumed
something else.
it will give you that burst.
If you're gonna eat something, make it count.
Yes.
Yes,
You
and
know what I
I
mean?
like that idea. I think that the conversation that we're talking about too is like how certain foods can impact our neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So, what are your thoughts about how diet culture can influence those things?
Oh my God, the diet culture, the yo-yo diets. There's so much that could be said about that. Unfortunately, we live in a society. Well, I'll preface this by saying that according to the CDC right now, approximately 60% of adults age 18 and over in America are overweight and obese.
Damn.
Yeah. That's huge.
60% is like
A
the
whole lot.
majority of our population.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not. It's not. This is.
Yeah.
about us like that too.
This is a problem. And I can't really. I get upset when we actually put it on the consumers.
Yeah, because to me, my immediate thought, my conspiracy theory brain said that this is a systemic issue.
That
It
part.
has to do
Listen
with the
to me.
food that is
Listen to
actually
me.
provided and
they're putting it-
accessible
It
to
is.
us,
It
and not
is.
actually what we're choosing to consume.
Yes, that is correct. And so I always, I tell myself, social media may have been great for a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
You understand? But it also has been detrimental to quite a bit, and
Hell
to include
yeah.
that diet. And this whole diet culture, like you have to be thin, you have to look a certain way.
Your skin has to be
your skin
glowing.
has to be glowing.
we went through a period where thick was in for
that we did.
a couple
We did.
of years,
A couple
and now
of
we're
years.
getting back to the.
But listen to me, that European ideology continues to plague our communities and make us feel like that is the idea of beauty that we need.
Exactly.
And I don't care how you look like, what culture you're from. It's just that's
ingrained.
It's embedded.
Yeah.
You can't
It's
escape
embedded.
that.
You can't escape it.
Colonization did a number on us
Listen
in lots
to
of
me.
ways.
In a whole lot of ways. And so when you think about that, this culture, I felt like led to that. So when you think, I'm going to diet, I'm going to try to lose that,
Yeah.
remove carbs, for example. You remove carbs, your diet is supposed to be 45 to 65% carbs.
Yes.
So you're removing like a whole nutrient.
Yeah.
Excuse me, who said that was the right thing to do?
Right.
And then you realize, and that's when you start getting into this disordered eating patterns. That's when you start, all of a sudden, you gain all this weight.
Right.
All of a sudden, you start,
Or you're up and down.
up and
like,
down.
Yeah.
You have this
You're
issue
trying to
with
supplement
you
and
ashamed.
substitute
Yeah.
the energy that you've lost.
That you
because
lost.
45 to 65% of carbs being like part of your energy resource, and you cutting that out. Where
are you
are
getting the
you
energy from?
Putting that in, you can't help. No wonder you're what's called eating all the fats are because fats
Or
give
craving
you,
sugar.
But fat's got a bad rep too.
They do.
Your
have
body
that,
need
but
your
you
body
need
needs
that.
fat. Your body needs
Your
fat
your
now.
brain,
Your
guys.
brain,
Your
listen,
brain needs fats in order to like function.
Yes,
To be
yes, it
malleable,
does.
yeah.
Exactly.
And so that's where you say like the education comes
The education
into
is
place because
huge.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
lack of information. I remember in like health class when I was in elementary school, they would teach you like, okay, this is, mind you, I heard that the food pyramid is not really like
no, we don't
what
use
it
that
is.
anymore. But we have a better method.
Either way, they taught you some things, even like how
Yes.
to like put certain things together. Hey, make sure you have salad. Like they don't teach people that anymore.
Yeah.
That's not
No, they don't.
a holistic. Generalized.
Somebody's
experience.
teaching them, but I don't know if it's someone that actually knows what they're doing.
No, it's
perhaps
social
your
media.
your
It's
social
social
media
media.
influencer
Yes.
who is just like,
Who has an eating disorder?
I had 2 pieces of rice today, and that's how I lost
or
all my
what did I
weight.
eat today? And you're seeing what people are eating, and you're like,
Girl dinner.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to cheat. I'm a cheat, like because this is actually very important to me. And I told you guys, I told my sister, I said I put some notes because there are some things I really wanted to get out here. What social media and everything, like you said, those influencers did is this constant like cycle of weight loss and weight gain, which is actually not good for your heart.
Right.
It's not good for your body. And then you have this whole moralization, this is good food, this is bad food. So we start shaming people, right? And so there's no such a good or bad food, right? There's just food. And then there's this whole thing, and she knows that's like a very emotional thing for me, which is the fat phobia. And weight bias. It looks funny. I feel like I'm about to tear up talking about it, and she knows about it. Is the social and the discrimination that comes with against larger body. I'm trying not to cry. We come with larger body and we overlook everything about that human and who they are and how beautiful they are, and not understanding obesity is a disease. And I think now we get that, and I think it's with the help of like the whole GLP-1.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Talk about that too.
That's coming in. It's making what it does is it's challenging that myth. Like, shoot,
that
this
it was
is a
choice
disease.
because people will keep
Listen.
making it seem as if like, oh, you chose
It is
to
so
be
bad.
this way. And
Yeah.
for me, like,
oh my God,
has been around people of larger bodies. You are the ostracizing, the demoralizing, the like literally making them feel like they are less than second class citizens.
It's
because
hard.
of things that don't always have anything
Thing
to do with
with them. And part of it too is just that there are studies that actually shows that schools, Ivy League schools, you know, those that are of higher BMI have a lesser chance of that, even in certain type of jobs. You know what I mean? And so that is really I don't like that, and it really, like I said, it affects me because I'm just like, you idiot. They have nothing to do with this, and it's and I don't know, it's incredibly helpful. But going into the GLP-1,
what are your thoughts
that you
about
thought
how
about that?
Taking a it's
'Cause
definitely hit us like a
it's taken
wave.
over for the last few years.
I have my own personal experiences.
Yes. So okay. So full disclosure, I am a dietitian that I do work on a couple of studies that use GLP-1. So I'm just going to put that out there as well. Just know, put it out there. So when I think about your GLP-1s, if anybody don't know, you're talking about your Wegovy, your Ozempic, your Mounjaro, right? And
Zepbound.
Yeah. So those are initially developed for diabetes management.
Right.
So, but have gained popularity over the years for weight loss, right? Fine, great. So the focus is, what works. Well, the good thing about it is for the diet culture we're talking about, it's less on restriction and, the myth that we're talking about, now it's like, oh, obesity is a disease, like we can see it. And it's just more of a more inclusive approach to it, right? So, and for that, it provides an option for people that, especially with metabolic condition, with type 2 diabetes, who have the metabolic syndrome, which means, you have your waist circumference, over a certain number, you have hyperlipidemia, you have high blood pressure, whatever 3 or 4 factors that you have, it provides an approach, for them, which is fine. But where it becomes not fine is those that are using it to get at that whole thin.
Then look, I think too,
meaning that they don't have any of the factors that you talked about
so
and are
no
just
obesity,
wanting to.
There's no
I would
any
also
of the-
say,
Yeah.
I'd also say how capitalism creeps up in there too, right?
Ooh,
Like who has access to GLP-1s?
And that's what I was going to tell you. So yes,
the money thing,
yeah. So that's something that equity is a big thing for me. Look, I'm funny how to say it now because we're in an environment we can't use equity. We can't use those things, whatever.
And here you can.
Right. We give a shit about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, so I mean, I do. I'm mindful of everything, but accessibility and equitable, access to it is an issue. So keep in mind those drugs were designed for something else, metabolic conditions, right? So therefore, insurance is not going to really cover them
if you don't have
them. So think about those people that probably necessarily need those. They're probably not going to have access to it because they're incredibly expensive.
They are.
Because I remember for a client who was interested in it, and the doctor basically said, well, the insurance won't cover it unless we exhaust all other medications. Now, may I remind you, depending on how you look like, your history, your genetic makeup, not every let's say drugs for high blood pressure. Some black males don't respond as well as some other people in the population. So you got to be careful with that. But so if you need that, it's something that you need. Some people need that jump start, right? Yes. And the GLP-1, made that. And so and for that, I'm okay with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you got to understand, there are some implications to it.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to ask that too, the side effects.
The side effects to it. So it depends. Side effects as it relates to what does it do to your body? Or
GLP-1s or even just the mental health aspect. I can share about a little bit about my own personal experience.
What? Okay, let's hear it.
I would say that the challenge that I ran into is having a history with restrictive eating and challenges with body dysmorphia already. Yeah. Losing a significant amount of weight has been a challenge for me. Yeah. And when I say significant, I probably lost 30 pounds when I was on them.
Well, that's significant.
And
that's significant. Yeah, that's significant. Yeah.
It's difficult for me to shop for clothes. It's difficult for me to actually see myself in the smaller space. I have no clue what size I wear. I'm very conscious of okay, now you've gotten here. How are you going to maintain that now that you're not on it anymore? And I think the thing that saved my life for sure was working with a nutritionist through that period. Like she helped
that's
me
my role.
change my lifestyle rather than just taking
Thank
this
you,
thing.
Tyler. Thank you for saying that.
and
Yeah,
that's it.
So thank you for saying that. So that is the thing. So the long-term thing that we are seeing initially is that if you have to decide for yourself if it's going to be something that you're going to be on for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because what we're seeing is that, as you stated, those that actually take it for the 16 weeks or 3 months or 6 months or whatever time they're on it, as soon as they get back off of it, they start putting the weight on.
Yeah.
Sometimes more.
Because you haven't
Yeah,
really
I've
done
experienced
anything to
that.
change
Exactly.
your life.
What I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
with some of the projects that I'm working on is that there's a dietetic component, there's a lifestyle component. And that's why it's so important to me, which is why I'm part of them, is that in addition for you to be, using those GLP-1s, what else are we doing to basically create a lifestyle that you can manage?
pillars.
You have to do that. So it's not the solution.
Yeah.
Right.
It's part of a solution that include changing your lifestyle, that's include movement, that's include your mental health. Keep in mind, I continue to say, sometimes when we have issues, our relationship with food sometimes stems from other issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
For sure.
I like that you brought that up because oftentimes the clients that I have who struggle with some sort of disordered eating, whether they are fully diagnosed or they're just having some challenges around eating, they've often experienced some sort of trauma. Food can be a very easy thing to control. So you will find
There you
people
go.
who has maybe had an out of control experience like trauma or some sort of assault. It's very common for them to also maybe have some restrictive eating or something around their food because that's something that they can have control over. What I can choose to eat or not to eat.
Yeah. And so we have to address the underlying conditions within that, so we can do that. So I said, like, it's like a multi-level intervention. You know what I mean? The mind, the body, lifestyle, movement, how we're going to carry through that, understanding that, yes, what I try to tell the clients too, I said, let's be clear. There's a possibility you will put some of that weight back.
Yeah.
But let's be okay with that.
Yes. How can you practice that
Okay.
acceptance? I
How
love
can we
that.
practice that acceptance? But also there is this thing we call health at every size. HAES, health at every size. Yeah, and so it's that. What does that look for you? For example, someone told me recently. I said, "Well, what is your goal weight?" And they told me, "Well, according to this pamphlet I'm looking at, I want to get at this number." I said, "Okay."
Why?
I said, "Okay." I said, "Let me reframe that question. What weight? Can we think about a time when you were at a weight? You look in the mirror, you're like, dang, I look good. I'm feeling good. Everything is my biomarkers. The doctors is not telling me my cholesterol levels is out of whack. My vitamins out of whack. I'm good. What was that weight?"
That's an interesting question.
That's a great
What was
question.
that weight? And they told me what that weight. I said, so do we want to shoot for what the papers say? And do we want to shoot for what you felt great at? In addition to you feeling good, your numbers actually reflect that as well, right? Your biomarkers reflect that because you got to be comfortable in the skin that you in. You know what I mean? And I will say, and she will tell you this, is that the reason I'm saying that is because I too am struggling with, as I age, as we go through this thing, let me tell y'all, oh, Jesus.
But also, it's like, talk about like your body transitioning after children.
That's what I was going to talk about, and she knows this. And it was weird to me, and I'm one of those. I don't want to say weirdo. That's kind of, I don't like using names, but I enjoyed pregnancy. For me, was great. I was one of those. She laughs at me. I was like, this was great. I was fine, but I was also blessed in that I was able to gain the the recommended. I was still within the normal recommendation of what you were supposed to gain, and for me, I did not. My weight came down like fast,
You were
quickly.
able to bounce back.
Listen, very quickly. Within 3 months, it was great. It was fine. My first one, I was back, doing whatever. I didn't make any, and it wasn't. I didn't make any effort. And I don't like saying that because you're bragging. No, it just kind of happened. That's straight up.
That was just your body. Yeah.
But that's genetics. I can't take it. That's mommy. Like that's her mother's side of the family.
I didn't get it from her.
And so, but realistically, but for me, what happened though with my second kid, with my son, similarly, I lost the weight, but he had allergies. He had food allergies. He had a lot of different things.
A lot of things.
And there was stuff, and I was nursing. I was breastfeeding, and I couldn't eat those things. And I ended up losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I was going out, and people were like, oh, I want to look like you in my next lifetime. And I look at them, I said,
You were miserable.
You
at
see
that
the
time.
encouragement?
Yeah, she
But
was
People
miserable.
treat you so differently.
I
when you
hated
lose
it
weight.
Yeah,
because I
miserable.
was emaciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you cut my bones and everything. I'm like, that's not cute. I did not like that. But society told everybody
likes
that.
that
You were it.
that's
Yeah.
zero. And I'm like, no. Society, my cohort told me they liked my booty. Like my mom always said, it isn't even my mom, even when I
But
went to college.
it's your family. It's the people who know you.
Yes.
Know me.
But also that's where it kind of be tricky because it's the
It's
people
both
who
of us.
know
Yes.
you who will be like, wait, what happened? You looking a
Say-
little not
say
right.
it, sis.
First
Say it,
comment.
sis.
Also at the
Say
same
it.
time will be like, oh, you look real good. Because I know
Sis.
for
Yeah.
me,
Yes.
I'm similar to you in the fact that like diet culture has been something that did not really like penetrate me where I was engaging into it. Actually, now I think about it, I wouldn't even say that's true. Diet culture has always been
Especially
in
as a
my
sports
face.
player,
How about
ma'am.
this?
I mean, I played sports, but it wasn't even really because of me. It
Yeah.
was because my mom had fluctuated weight. My family, like, I've been around people who are both very fit and people who society said was not fit. And the way that people talk about women who are labeled not fit versus the way they talk about men
Right.
who are not fit
Yes,
is
sir.
just so nasty.
It's-
Like it's just
Yeah.
like this perpetual, like before people who don't even know you feel the need to make criticisms and
or have
comments
something to
about
say
you
about
or
your
be
weight.
like you're doing something and they'll be like, oh, you about to eat, and it's like, and for me who's not, I was not bigger. I have been bigger in this body, but I wasn't conventionally big. Seeing those things, you absorb it in a very
Yeah.
weird
You
way
do.
where it's like
Yeah.
you feel I would feel so angry when people would say things around my larger, what's it called, body friends or my mom. I would be so upset while at the same time, this like not fully recognized fear of
Being in that position.
not being in that
Yeah,
position
but
per
like-
se, but like not being in the safety of the body
like-
that I've been. My body has
Yeah.
always been something that has been sought after.
Yeah.
People have always
Yeah.
been attracted to it, said things about it. So when I got older and I was not working out to the degree that I was, and I did not, like, I was in that hustle culture.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice that I had gained weight, and then I like became aware of it. The amount of like shame, the amount of like self-critical talk, like I was
Yeah.
really shitting on myself
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah.
you know how
Yeah.
people talk
Yeah.
about people,
Right, and
how
you take on that language
unattractive-
yourself.
And mind you, also being a darker skinned woman,
Ooh, baby.
like your body and your looks and what you represent is so ingrained, and being tall, like it was just so much stuff.
Yeah.
People were calling me big when I was. I've never been a size 0, but if you would have looked at me,
Yeah.
people would have guessed,
Yeah.
thought that I was.
Yeah.
But people were calling me big instead of tall, and I remember even little being like, "I'm not big, I'm tall," because like it was. I felt the need to make the distinction.
Oh yes,
of like,
I experienced that because listen, back home they said, "Oh, she's bamboo sticks." They called me bamboo sticks, right? But being tall, and somebody, I don't know if it was my mom or someone, corrected them. No, Daphne is thin. She's not skinny. That's what it was. Daphne is not skinny. She's thin. That's her natural, whatever. And so that was it. But interestingly enough, the power of words is fascinating.
It is.
Because even though we are being commented, oh, they're thin, they look great, they'll say this, whatever. But what happens is as you get older, that becomes a fabrication of
like,
who you are.
crystallizes you. And
Yes.
Yeah, like I have to
And
look
so
like this
not-
to be accepted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it creates a really big mind F.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I
say
mean?
fuck.
For people.
We don't say
Like no, it's like literally a trap door
It's
that's
a trap
waiting
door.
for you to fall
You know what I
into.
mean? Because now I try to be mindful, and my best friend and talk about that when we had. She won't remember. We talked about years ago, but it's like when I talk to my little girl, I'm like, darling, you smart. Look at you. Look at the effort you put in. You're good. Look at you. I try to make sure. Now, I may not do that 100% of the time. I don't say, oh, you got some nice legs. You got some do this. You got to do that. Because
Thank
God
God.
forbid one day them legs don't look the way that she's going to be like,
It's
well,
gonna-
it's going to, you see what I mean?
that
it
is-
wasn't intentional.
For real.
Well,
For real.
we know we're gonna have
culturally.
we're gonna have a cover transparency here. Daphne and I used to be compared all the time when we were
Sure.
younger in sizes, you know, and the confusing message for me, because when we were living back home, Daphne used to be teased around being too skinny.
Yep.
And I was technically like fit and nice size. We come here, then the shoe flipped, then
Yep.
Daphne's glorified, and even by family members and moms too, around like how skinny she is. And then I was fat shamed around my
Yep.
size.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it became that discriminatory to the point where it, you know, me and my mom really had to go at it
Yeah.
because, you know, there was the comparison not only about our interests that were different, but our bodies were very magnified.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much.
So that almost
And
made
I
it
think,
more different.
Yeah,
and I
it made it more
remember
different.
as I became comfortable within my skin and my body, I had to give my sister permission to like, hey, we can talk about it, because she get uncomfortable. She's like, well, don't call yourself that. It's not fair. Like I was like, no, but let me own my stuff.
Yeah,
like, get
she
my
had to teach
story.
me that, and it's so
I
funny.
think
Yeah,
of kind of letting go of that, but I think growing up for us and the mixed messages we got in both different cultures, because you know my mom didn't notice that. My mom is a nurse, so I want to be clear. Like she wasn't
It was out of love.
intentionally in her mind. She's trying to save me and help me.
Yeah.
But saying like, "Hey, you too fat. You need to da 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 da." You know, her saying that is like hearing
Because
it.
it's
I'm
the
like,
directness and it's the putting
what is
down. And it's like you're
happening?
saying, it's like making it be like there's
Yeah,
something
you need to be
wrong.
like your sister.
Yeah.
Like you need to lose
Yes.
this weight and that.
Yeah.
Or she'll say things like, "You didn't get that from me. You get it from your father's side." You know, things like
Yeah.
that made
You
me
know-
start to like, okay, well, how come I wasn't built like you? Then?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that point that you brought up
Yeah.
too, because I
Yeah.
think that what we fail to realize is that those small bits over time really manifest into self-hatred.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
you don't see, you can be this smart, bad boss chick, and you don't see you're a boss chick
Yeah.
because you're like, well, no, I put on this like 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, what is happening?
Yeah.
But I will say this, mommy is interesting. Mommy will have Jay try everything. Jay, you want to try this? You want to try that? She will spend
Girl,
whatever
my
Jay
mother
was
spent a lot
willing
of
to
money on
try,
diets.
she
And I was
would.
just doing it to
Because
entertain her, and half the time I think I was even
for
interested
her,
in it.
it was because you work in the ER, you see
New
the
things.
worst outcome.
Yeah.
And back in the day, the way they used to make it seem like if you're gonna die tomorrow.
Yeah.
Even the messaging,
Yeah.
I think about the videos that we consumed as
Yeah.
kids, the messaging,
Do
the
you
books, it was
remember
all
that,
of this
that
like
person that was on the couch and it was a dude and they were big?
disgusting.
Y'all remember?
like,
And they would make it so that you would like
feel
think
disgusted,
disgust,
yeah.
feel disgust.
Yeah.
So when you see this person, that there is disgust. Like you
Yeah.
just. And so for just going off of that thing, like that self-hatred, right?
Yes.
Like me being commented of how how beautiful my legs
Yeah.
are. Oh, what's it called? You're so thin. You don't have cellulite. So then when you inevitably get older,
Yeah.
And you
get,
get
those
those
things,
things,
I'm
yeah.
immediately feeling like,
you
oh no, I
yeah.
messed up. I'm no longer enough.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down
Yeah.
to. I'm no longer worthy.
Exactly.
I'm no longer attractive for these things that I once had.
Exactly.
Right? And so then it then turns into, well, then how do I get it back?
Yeah.
And that's where diet loves to creep itself
Creep
right
into that
here
diet
as
culture.
the magic
Yeah,
pill of
that
like,
you-
yep, I
yeah.
can help you get
Yeah.
that thing
Yeah.
that you lost
Yeah.
if you just maintain this thing.
Yeah, and it's not
exactly.
realistic, right? Because as we get older, and this is what I'm dealing with right now, because at some point you will realize what you used to eat doesn't work.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
What you used
Tell
to do
me
doesn't
about
work.
it.
You know
It-
why?
No
Body-
alcohol, no sugar.
You know what I mean?
Your body
but
don't
your
respond to
hormones,
that.
your
Yeah.
hormones are changing,
Hormonally,
right?
yeah.
Your hormones are changing, and your hormones has a lot. You know, so that's the diet culture
with,
as well.
What do you see with the male who struggle with eating disorder? Because that's a
I would
thing.
say not even males, but just black people in general.
Yeah.
Like, how are you bringing that up? Even?
Yeah.
You know, they
So-
don't. Black people don't necessarily. Typically, you don't see them report it.
No, because they don't
Yeah.
even know what it is.
They don't know that it is, but there's that's just such a complicated issue. They don't know what it is, and keep in mind too, if they realize there's an issue, like
we're less
with
likely
your culture,
to
you're
see.
less likely to be like, okay, what you got? You can't. What's wrong with you? You need to eat something. You know what I
Right,
mean?
it's either you need to eat or you need to stop
Yeah,
eating.
stop eating.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Given
It's always
that figure it out on your own.
figure out on your own thing, not understanding. And sometimes, by the time we realize, like, oh, this is something an issue, the damage that has been done, you know, is so much. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You have to deal with hospitalization, and that's when you really need.
But that's also
And
when people pay attention.
interdisciplinary, yeah. But
And
you're
then
detached or
people,
removed.
unfortunately, at that point, once a family member has to get hospitalized, that's usually when people pay attention. But that's immediately when people start to feel like, oh, like, you're too much. Or they'll start somehow blaming the parents, and they'll somehow like feel some type of responsibility, and either will then become helicoptery, or will then somehow disengage as like, well, you put yourself into
the
this,
situation
or you had
that
no issue, or it wasn't. It's like immediate, like,
or just choose different foods.
Here is why I brought it up though, because I do have male clients, and even down to like the men in our lives that we know who are very, I'm seeing a prevalent, and that's why I asked the question around like, there is a very so much attention on how they look and how
that is true.
Gym culture
and then
and
also you know, who they'll be able to attract, and really having some body issues, which is I guess
It is.
in my experience
Overlooked.
is something
it's overlooked.
that is not talked about. Or
It's
we
not
don't think
talked about.
that men also struggle with eating disorders, and because I've had a couple males that I'm like that I've had to say like, no, you have disorder.
No, they do.
Like,
They
you
do.
have,
They do.
You know, like something is showing up here. It's more than just the fact that you feel.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about talking to men though?
You know, I don't have any issue talking to men. I have a very sensitive spot for males, and period, especially in this day and age, as it relates to the pressure, especially black and brown males, that is put on them. I am alarmed by the sheer, what is it? What is the word? What's required of them?
Yeah,
you need to
the expectations.
make that's what it is.
Unrealistic,
Unrealistic expectation. You need to make this income. You need to be able to afford this. I need to be able to drive this. I need to be able to have this home. I need to be able to do this. You need to be able to look this way. You need to be able to dress this way. Buy this type of shoes
and
build a house and all of that. So we telling them all of that, but we don't raise little boys, black or brown, yellow, whatever you want to do, to basically be so in tune with themselves and say that. But we also live in a society where we tell them at a very young age how they need to look. So they're growing, realizing like, man, my belly's pudging, or I'm gonna go to at the age of 50, I'm gonna do, what is it, Dr. Miami or something? Go do that stuff.
Or like the big back.
The big back.
I don't want to be seen as big back.
That's a new thing. Stop
no,
saying
but
that.
that's just a new thing.
That's a new. I was just about to say that.
Saying, but there's always been, before it's you a fat ass, it's you looking like Precious.
There's always things. And males will just, men are just, sometimes they
struggle with body
dysmorphia. Are very, what's it called, cutthroat, in that they will come direct, like the first thing they will call out is something of your physical appearance. You being fat is, I mean, I know from like my brother, right, like who was in a larger space, he is 6'9", has always been a taller person, what's it called, stronger person. And so from the young age, people calling him these things, people immediately telling you information about, look, you got to be careful about what it is that you're eating. You have to be like, since you're little.
And that gonna determine the type of partner they select, the type of job they select, what they post on their LinkedIn profile, what it's gonna affect every single thing.
The things that I even, what's it called, celebrate about myself or put out is not gonna be like,
it's gonna be so different. And that's what I said. It's really health at every size, really understanding it's really being comfortable in your skin, because when you have different cultures that plays into it, when you have different health conditions that you can't help that affect you, your thyroid is not functioning properly. You come from a family of like, all of you look at them, all of them, just hippie this and this, that's not, people always said, well, your sister this and this. I said, let me be very clear. Jay eats clean. I tell people this all the time. Jay don't have an issue with eating clean.
No,
Jay may have an issue with quantity.
Yes, I
but
do.
It's not about clean.
Because I be wanting more and more.
It's not about clean. It's not about clean. And so I say that all the time, but it is an issue now. And as my son, this ninja is 10 years old, and he wants to tell me.
Let's talk about the wrestling.
He wants to do. He wants to lift weights now.
Yeah, because he wants to be.
My baby is telling me. It's funny. He said, "Mommy, what do you think if I do?" And he's telling me he's doing push-ups, y'all. He's coming. He's getting my weights and the dumbbells and putting them up so he can do barbells. He said, "You see, I have a 3-pack. I have this." And I'm looking at him.
And we
I
don't
said,
even know where
young.
he got it
But
from.
He
But
said
somebody
societal.
came and told YouTube. Yeah, but somebody came and called him Big Back or something.
Yeah, somebody called
and
him
he
Big Back.
literally
He thought
he messed with his whole system.
Yeah.
and a kid.
Because he's
this big.
aware.
Yeah, he's
But
big.
aware what
right,
that
he's very
means.
time, but he's also aware of what it means.
Yes.
And also what
But a little
implications are.
A little girl told him he was fat.
But that was it. It's
Y'all
the
seen my
implication-
son.
He's
Yeah.
but he's not. But it's like
You
it's
know
the
what I mean?
implication to know that being called that means I'm not going to be accepted.
Yes.
Right,
Like,
that's
I'm not
true.
gonna get
That's
the,
true.
Especially as a dude, I'm not going to get the what's it called access to the best looking girls, the most
Yeah.
popular girls, the things of that. Because he's 10, so
Yeah.
he is moving into the
Into
range
that,
where
yeah.
his understanding
Yeah,
of the
that's true.
stuff
Social circle, yeah.
is coming into play. So like for men, it is around how your body is pretty
Yeah.
much we're talking about monetary value.
Yeah.
Your
That's
body
true.
is your value,
Yeah.
both in your ability to make money, but also to be a billboard
Taking
of
it to
strength.
that label.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
show
how you
yourself.
show up in the- yeah.
And so for women, our capitalist in our body comes in our attractiveness in terms of like what do we provide to a partner into the world.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Black women or brown people, brown women, our body has always been a sexual
Yeah.
Hypersexualized,
conduit. Like it's always been something that people felt access to in terms of like opinion,
Sure.
touch,
Entitled
like,
to
you know, like
labor,
all of those
physical,
things.
yeah.
So to
Yeah.
some degree,
Yeah.
when we look at like how diet culture has really enmeshed and really fucked up a lot of different things.
Listen to me.
It's really around image.
Yeah.
like
It's really- yeah, no, image,
It's like
it's
how
true.
how can I show
true.
and portray myself in a way that is the most likable.
Yep.
That is
Right.
the most attractive. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, in our day and age, being light, being thin, skinny, whatever adjective that you want to use for being a certain aesthetic, as well as maybe a certain height.
Yeah.
And mind you, even thinness having a hierarchy within that.
That part.
What that
Yep.
looks like.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Yes,
like
indeed. Yes,
before,
indeed.
you had people going to the gym. I remember when I
Yeah.
was in school, they're over here talking about, oh, you look like the Hulk. Now all of a sudden, everybody wants to be a gym baddie.
Yeah.
Now everybody wants to
And
get
I
the
can relate to
what's it
that,
called?
right? I did like 3 different sports. I did track, cheerleading, and dance in high school. So
Like, she's practiced it, yeah.
perhaps now the eating was already an issue then. I'm going all day at school without eating. I've got 3 different sports after school. Then I come home and I eat like a whole entire pizza and like whatever
That's it for
stuff.
the day, yeah.
Right. So that's already on the track. But also coupling that with the fact that I grew up around a lot of people that did not look like me. So I am 110 pounds, still the fattest person on my team. And looking at it in that way. So I really like what you said about like trying to find some like happiness at any stage that you're
Yeah,
at. Because
yeah.
just thinking back to previous versions of myself, like,
Yeah.
girl.
Oh, for sure.
If I was, I feel like if I was 110 pounds right now,
For
I
sure.
would look sick.
Yeah, that's
So I
listen.
think about
do
that.
you understand? I was that, and I was like, what are they seeing?
Yeah.
But that was for them, and that's their story, right? And that's what
Yeah.
they're told. And for me, that wasn't for me because it was always like, yeah, she's thin. But even I'm telling you, different part in this country. So when I went to college in the South. It was like
They want you to be thick, girl.
Listen,
Hey,
and
I
I was
remember
not that.
time, and she
I was not
wasn't.
that. But you know what? They always tell me, oh. Yeah, she's small, but she got a butt on her though. So now,
And then so you start taking pride on
Right.
that
and
thing.
that booty. Yes, indeed. I was just
they'll
like,
tell you need to eat.
yeah,
You
they'll
can't
tell me
go
anything to eat. But
McDonald's.
it wasn't. But I will say I had, at that point, there was a guy I was dating, and I remember he was exercise physiology or physical therapy major. He was like, D, don't worry about that. I said, I ain't. And he was just like, nah. He said, let me, all that thickums they have, that's going to be adipose tissue. That's going to be cellulite when they get older. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He said, that's going to turn into cellulite. He said, and you're going to be just fine. They're going to look at you. And I will never, to this day, I never forget that. I was just like, thank you for that. And you know, and I don't know if I needed it at that time. I don't know, but honestly, it never fazed me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I came from a culture, you know, that prefer, you know, I still was thin, you know, they liked it, but I could have used some meat on my bones. But you go down south, they're like, you need to be thicker. That's what they're like. You need to be thicker. Not only need to be thicker, you need to be lighter. But then he's like, yeah, let me tell you, they're gonna regret that. That's about
Thicker
to be
but
so
lighter,
light.
but also in the proper
places.
Like you gotta have TNA.
This is the part
Nothing
where,
else.
Yeah.
but this is the part where beauty
Is eye in
you
the
know,
beholder.
is eye in the beholder,
Yeah.
but also, you know, it's depending on the different cultures that you kind
Yeah.
of go into, in the sense of that
Okay.
there's colonizer culture that you go to, aka Western culture, and then there's other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember, you know, 2 years ago, I told you going to Nigeria. I said, well, shit.
They were probably in love with
she
that.
They
is
were.
that-
I lived my best life, Lord. Like,
I
they
was gonna
loved
say,
me.
yes.
Like,
Yes.
it was crazy, but
It's
I
different,
remember how
yes.
the people we traveled. Remember, I told you they were way smaller than I was, but they were so upset and bothered that when we went out, that they were not getting attention.
Yeah, and
couldn't
imagine what that's
understand, like, because I remember one time they're like, "Jay, we don't want you to go out with us no more because we're not getting meet nobody." I'm like,
Because
so now y'all know how it feels.
Picture
like,
what
Yeah.
I'm like, picture what it's like at home.
yeah,
Yeah.
that part.
And,
But it's
yeah.
interesting.
Okay, so let's wrap it up for the people a little bit. What are
Okay.
some ways that we can maybe get away from these cultural ideas about body image, and maybe even some tips on getting connected with a nutritionist?
Yeah, so quick questions. How do you can get away with that? You just understand, you have to understand food plays, the role that food plays in our life. Food is important to our family. You know, since I was a little girl, even back in Haiti, you know, there was always eating meals at the dinner table.
Yeah, that community.
That
piece.
community is
Yeah.
huge. And to this day, even that we have kids, it's important for my mom to, we have kids, we have families, we still had Sunday dinners. You know, we didn't eat every day at the dinner. And now it's like, you know, as she gets older, it's, you know, every couple of Sundays. Yeah. So food is very important. And food is community. Food is love.
Yes.
Food is just comfort. Food is what you need to continue to function. Your cells and your body needs it. There is no good or bad food, but understanding that there are certain foods that works better for your body.
Yeah.
You know,
Effective or ineffective?
ineffective.
Speaking our
Very good.
language.
Exactly.
Right.
And so your body, the diet plays a crucial role in
Yeah.
which what you guys mentioned in regulating certain neurotransmitters in your body, like, you know, the dopamine and that you talk about in
Serotonin.
and serotonin, right? So the serotonin is a feel-good hormone. The dopamine is the motivation hormone. And I bring that in. The reason I bring that up is because there is a saying, you have to be mindful of the type of food that you put in your
Right.
body, right? And so what does that mean? That means that including like foods that are high good fish oils that are protected for your heart. So you're talking about mackerels, you're talking about salmon, you're talking about like nuts and seeds, you know, you're talking about lean proteins, like you need your proteins, like, right? But the lean proteins.
So that's like turkey, chicken.
Correct. You know what I mean? And then, but,
Or chickpeas.
you know, but vegetables, I can't even tell you, only less than 10, I think it's less than 10%. Less than 10% of Americans consume the recommended amount of vegetables that they need to.
I could believe that.
I can see that.
I could
You
believe
understand
that.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And so that's a problem, friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That listen, I
Girl,
can't.
you love
Like,
starch.
I'm sorry. I don't think I saw a green vegetable.
No, it's not. But you know, but that's real. But that's real for a lot of
Yeah.
people. But that's also a problem, right?
Yes.
Because that's part of, you know, this culture. You know, we took one slice of bread, but they don't focus that balance is the key. You know, you need a little bit of everything. And I always go to the My Plate method. Look at your plate. Seriously. Okay, do I have, if half of it fruits and vegetable, do I have my whole grains, a quarter plate? Do I have my protein? Do I have that? And that way, you know, well, that's balanced. Now, how colorful is my plate?
Yeah.
Because different colors bring
Give
about
you different
different vitamins, give you certain verticals that are good for your body, that is good for your brain.
Yes.
And if your brain
And
is
your skin.
and your skin,
Right.
very good. And if you're not eating those protein foods, if you're not eating those
Protein
complex
is, mind
carbohydrates.
you, isn't it a foundation for our hair, our skin,
Listen,
our teeth?
it's
Like, this is all over the place.
building block. This is all over the place. It's very important. It's you know we need them, and so if your body is not getting what it needs, and you can get them from soy or nuts, just because you don't eat meat does not mean you can't get protein somewhere else. Like,
Right.
right? You there's tofu, there is lentils, there is beans, there's like so
Chickpeas
many
is my
different things
favorite.
that you can do. Yeah, and so it's all in the balance. Eat foods that make you feel good, and it's not the donuts, right? That doesn't mean you can't have a donut, though.
Right.
Let's be very clear. It just means that
My
we have
husband
to.
call it you could indulge.
You can indulge.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what
he's
my
correct.
nutritionist calls it.
Yeah,
So
indulge.
your
It's
happy
okay.
meal
It's
day.
your happy meal day, and you can have that, and then just focus, like you eating your balance, but getting your beans and lentils and focusing on a diet that is more plant based. It's incredibly important. It's important for your mood. It's important for the way you function, and you'll feel lighter too. You know what I mean? You'll feel
Yeah.
lighter, and it's just if we stop focusing on like I can't have this, but I can have that. You just no. You just need to get away from that restriction.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Daphne.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, Daphne. Where can people find you if they're looking for more information on nutritionism and well, I guess nutrition?
Nutrition.
Let's see. I am on Instagram, like Health Wellness Pack. Actually, I have a website too, healthwellnesspack.com. And I can give it to you guys. You guys can share it.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into our listener letters. Body image and pregnancy.
I've been thinking a lot about starting a family, but I have some personal hurdles that I'm struggling with. One of my biggest concerns is my body image and self-worth, which have always been tied to how I look. I know I bring value to the world through my career in nonprofit work, but I also feel that much of my perceived worth comes from my appearance. I worry how pregnancy will change my body, and if I will struggle with self-hate or resentment because of it. I also have a deep fear of aging and losing my value to society. I'm actively working on these feelings through counseling and medication, but they still weigh heavily on me. Another major concern is how pregnancy and having a child will affect intimacy with my SO. We are very sexually active, and I fear that physical and emotional closeness will change, whether due to exhaustion, my own insecurities, or simply a shift in priorities. Since my sex drive is higher than his, I worry that I will feel disconnected, or that spontaneity will be lost when a child enters our home. I know these concerns might sound vain, but I want to acknowledge and work through them now rather than regret a decision I can't take back. I want to hear from others who have faced similar struggles. How did you navigate these feelings and maintain a sense of self and intimacy through pregnancy and motherhood?
So this person's asking basically about the body image space. How do we
Oh my God.
love ourselves at each
She
space?
she said a lot of
There,
stuff.
a lot of things.
there
There's
was a lot of things
things.
there. You know, I am someone who I can actually relate to her around one of my fear. Let me be honest. Let me take it back.
Take it all the
I
way
never
back. Take it back.
saw
Take it back.
myself being pregnant. I used to literally tell my sister, like,
Yeah, she did.
You
Yeah,
going
she
to
did. I
carry
already
my
know.
baby for
Yeah,
me?
she
And
did.
part of that for me was
the body.
around like my body, around like I don't want to blow up. And I know that sounds vain, and I know she said it sounds vain, and I had to
It's
normalize
not
that for
vain.
myself. But there was
It's
other
not
things
vain.
around. It was also not getting bigger, but also the fear that I witnessed with pregnancy. That
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to go through all of that. And so for her, I want to say, I think what she's experiencing is very normal.
Yeah.
As far as like the intimacy part and that changing after you giving birth, I have had women, who talk about and struggle the fear of that. But
Sure.
honey, let me tell you, you can get a tighten up in that vajayjay is not a problem.
What do they call it? A vaginal plasty?
Yes, you can do a lot
Vaginoplasty.
of that. Or vaginal rejuvenation, cleanse all that, and do some Kegel exercise, and sis, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And also understanding, like, I think it's perfectly normal as you are connected to your body. Pregnancy is something foreign to your body, foreign to you. It's like, it's great, but I think I want to say, like, maybe doing some work around normalizing things for your body. Some things I've done in the past with clients is basically what it feels like to be pregnant by wearing like a fake pregnancy pill, like carrying it and looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing like how does it feel to view yourself in a larger stance and things like that. So I will say just do some work around the exposure of it, but also normalize the fact that it's so super okay for you to feel this way.
Absolutely.
And that she's not alone in the boat. And like also you ain't gotta worry, like I said, the sex work girl, you ain't gotta worry about it.
The thing is, go ahead.
Because my question was, isn't that a misconception? After
I was just
I
about
was
to
gonna
say that.
you don't need to
You
do
don't need to
anything
do
with your
all of that.
vagina after
I
you
was
have
just
it.
about
It
to
goes
say
right back
that.
to its Your
It
stuff is
does.
fine. I said
it's
even
not
probably snap back
elastic.
even better.
You know
but
what I mean?
either way, that's what I was thinking is when you were talking is that like one that's a misconception.
It is a
that
misconception.
Your stuff down there works more,
And it's going to be what it is.
and it's right. You can obviously there are things as you get older
That
if
you
you
can
would
do.
like to do a nice little pimp my ride down there, go for it. You know,
she said pimp my ride.
if you want to do that, go for
Okay,
it. But
wow.
like, I think there's a couple things that I want to address around how she's using certain things to reinforce her like sense of self.
Yes.
Like even the fact that
That's-
you
that's
using
it.
sex
Yes.
as a means to make you feel worthy, attractive, or even secure.
Yeah.
That to me is more of something that you want to
Yeah.
kind of explore
Address, yeah.
a little bit, because I mean
Does she say she enjoy it though?
she said she enjoys. Did she say she enjoys
That's
sex?
what I was gonna ask.
She was
I
That
was
she
gonna
enjoys
say-
sex and that she has a higher sex drive than
Okay,
her
so
partner.
she
yeah.
enjoys it. So
she enjoys
probably,
it. But
yeah.
also there's
But
where
asking,
does
is she-
the fulfillment enjoyment coming from?
I see.
Right? Like are you enjoying it because I'm getting the release and I'm feeling the sense of closeness?
Yeah, yeah.
Or am I enjoying it because it confirms
feel
that my partner
validated.
is attracted
Attracted
to me,
to me.
That part.
and that makes me, and so that's
you
where
went to something there. I can see
Yeah,
that.
I don't think they were clear around that, but I could see the connection you could make with
Yeah.
their body
Yes.
around
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
It seems like to me their fear is around their intimacy and their sex drive changing
Because after pregnancy,
I
as a
also
result
heard-
of the hormonal change.
I
yeah.
heard the point too around the thing that stood out to me is the statement around not being accepted in society when you look different.
Yep.
That's the part that really stood out to me, and perhaps is something that they can maybe work through with some support of a mental health professional, or even with working with a nutritionist to help them
she
identify.
did say she's working on. Didn't she say she was working on some of those issues? Or
No.
Oh,
Well,
she's
yeah, she
not?
said that she is working on it, but is
Okay.
looking for more support with that, right?
Oh, well, okay, she's
yeah.
okay,
So I think that is perhaps an area to hone in on how you maybe what are your own internalized beliefs.
Yeah.
What are some things that you have now picked up? Even the idea of like having imposter syndrome when people maybe make comments about how she looks, or like leading with how she looks and feeling insecure about that.
That's
maybe
the
having
thing.
some other
Yeah,
successes that
yeah.
she would want to highlight. Yeah.
I agree with you, Tyler. The first thing I heard when she said that was exactly what we were talking about. She's been told since she was young, her beauty was
Yep.
had everything.
That's
so
it.
she that morphed into that's who I am.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
everything. She's boss chick, but she
Okay.
don't see any of that.
Yeah.
She has a great job doing well. None of that matters because guess
doting
what?
a partner
Yeah,
who's into her.
who's that? And and the whole you made a great connection about sex. But here's the thing with pregnancy and nutrition and weight.
Tell them, girl, 'cause you love pregnancy, Cherry.
I do, which is why I was supposed to have all your children.
Yeah, you sure will.
Yeah, so she thought. But here's the thing. If you and your significant other, you guys are thinking about conceiving, if that's something you want to do, you start talking to your healthcare provider now, right? To make sure that, I always say, make sure you are at your best health. I put healthy in quotation
Mental
marks
health too,
because
please.
that's different. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
That
That you're at your best because like what again going back to what my numbers looking like. Am I at the weight that I want to? Because when you are carrying a child, there is a certain based on your pre-weight, whatever you are preconceived weight. There's a certain number of it's recommended weight that you're supposed to gain. But you want to make sure you're healthy. You want to make sure you're getting on your nutrients. You want to make sure because when you conceive, right, primarily, you get your nutrients, but the placenta,
The baby's
the
getting
baby
what
gets
it's
what
gonna
you
get.
get.
Your
It's
ass will be
okay.
looking
Yeah,
famished.
you know what I mean? You're gonna get what you're
Look at
gonna
a
eat,
parasite in
and
you.
it's
Just-
fine, and it's
Just
healthy,
that part.
right? And then when you have that child, right? You start within reason, you start working on, slow strategies to get you to that weight that you want to get to. It is scary because the world have told you that this
gotta
where
bounce
you
back.
are right now
to bounce back.
In 3 months.
Well,
And
yeah,
there's
but the world have told her that all she got is
Is
how
where
she looks at right now.
Yeah. I
You know
hate
what
that
I'm
for
she's
saying?
her.
trying to go back
Yeah,
to
she's trying to go
something
back to that as
she knows.
quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So it's more of the mind, like, no, I am more than what the world. Screw them. They don't know what the heck
Yeah.
they're talking about.
Yeah, like
And
is she
also-
able
but
to
also can
identify
also-
more than her looks?
I don't
The
know.
world of
I want
filters,
to.
They don't.
Right.
I
They don't
also
look
want
right.
to give
Right.
some like grace and empathy around the fact that the truth is her body will change.
I was
It
about to say
will,
that.
yeah,
I was
that
going to say
acceptance.
when
No,
you're
yeah.
older.
There's an acceptance that
And
things are gonna have to
unfortunately,
go.
society will low key
Yeah.
no
Because one of my
longer.
girlfriends, like, her body did change.
It will,
like,
yeah.
she did have your 6 or 4 pack. Her body was very fit, and after her 2 kids, it's like she does have that excess skin because her daughter really stretched her out to the point where it's like her body really expanded, and now she, her when it comes to her stomach area and stuff like that, she just does not. She's a small person. She does not feel.
She doesn't have that.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Yeah,
have that.
yeah.
So when I read this, I actually think about around like, I hope
Yeah.
you write this either, but either way,
Being
like,
okay, being
around
okay.
that part,
Yeah,
around, her. The reality of it is doing some radical acceptance that her body will change.
Will change.
Yes.
You will
And
change.
then
you can be
also-
okay.
And that's okay.
Yes,
you will
and
be
also
okay.
radically accepting the grief that comes with
With you.
accepting that. Because I think
Yeah.
people like preach this thing of like acceptance being this kumbaya, and I'm gonna be
No.
oh
Or
yeah,
that
like,
means that you
like
won't be
pass- like,
upset.
it's almost like I'm passing
No.
off like
Yeah.
a cute little
No,
no.
you- no,
It is
you gotta
something
accept-
that you will
listen.
cry about,
Yep.
something that you will feel lost without,
Yeah.
something
Change
that
your
you will
mind,
need
too.
to kind of like have to reorient and recalibrate to, because you're losing something that was vital to you, something that
Yes.
told
Yeah.
you or at least helped you expect how people were going to show up around you,
Yeah.
right? Because if
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
used to looking a certain way, getting complimented a certain way, I already know how people
Yeah.
see me and what space I take. Now that I'm in a different body and in a different, what's it called, experience, I don't know how the other person's going to
Yeah.
take me.
Yeah.
The
But-
rules are different.
Yeah.
Like the game is different, and I need to relearn all that, and that's
Yeah.
not always a great place to be in.
And I may sound controversial with this, but I'm gonna say it anyway, okay?
Oh.
And we live in a world. She has options. If she is not comfortable carrying, if
That's
she can
okay,
afford
too. That
to,
is
and her
true.
mind can. She could also get a surrogate too.
That's true.
That's always like there's option there.
there are
You don't
options.
have
That, too,
because
like,
if the
there can be
value,
judgment.
right?
Yeah.
If their
There
value,
can- there-
if
there
your
is judgment.
value.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Right. If her value is I want to be a mother, there's a lot of different ways for her to be a mother if she still feel uncomfortable
Yeah.
about the changes. So there is that option for you too. Like if that's something you and your partner talk about and it's
That's
within
it.
your economic means. I mean, I don't give a fuck what people think. So fuck
Yeah.
the judgment that she will get around that because I don't. But also like make that an option as well. I think
Yeah.
sometimes we feel like, coming at the vajayjay is the only way, but it could come out somebody else's vajayjay and it still be mine.
That is
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah, that is
I
very
like that
true.
you gave that
I like
option,
that,
but
yeah,
also another
yeah.
thing to maybe think about is, do you want to have children?
I was
Do
just
you
about to
actually
say that
want to have children?
because
But it says like-
in
it sounds
society,
like- yeah.
she's not sure, but it sounds like. Let me tell you, society make people feel like that's something
Like the
part of
nuclear
the course,
family is like,
that.
this is must-
Please
you must have
understand
that.
that it's okay for you
Yeah.
not. If you make that decision, it's not for you. That's okay as well.
Yeah.
And if you make that decision is for you, it's okay. The truth of the matter is, your life is going to be changed for better or for worse, however you want to do it. You know what I mean? It's going to change. Your body is going to change, and all of it eventually will be well. But it takes some acceptance. It takes time. It takes healing. It takes growth. It takes everything, and them little things will take everything that you have.
Yeah.
And you don't have.
And what you don't have, and that's okay too, and that's the choice that you make. But again, it's part about choice. But I will say this: do ensure that whoever that significant other is aware of those issues that you're feeling
Yes.
around your body, around conceiving, around intimacy.
Yeah.
Because if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel connected to that person, then that's when you are really going to see some issues after you have a child. And you
I
do
appreciate you saying that. I'm
So,
like,
that
yeah.
really is incredibly important, being on the same page. Understand that, because when you are nurturing a body inside of you, and when that comes to life, you have to make sure the support you have, that nucleus from your mother, your sister, your friends, that we need to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And if they're not, I hate to say it, they need to go.
For disaster.
But they need to go. They need to go. They need to go, because you need to nurture yourself and your body and your family so you can grow yourself back to whatever is healthy for you.
Yeah.
And that child to whatever the milestones that need you.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, Daphne. I think
Yeah.
that's a great way for us to end, honestly, because that is quite the mic drop there.
Right.
Exactly. Like,
No,
we
seriously.
appreciate you writing
you
into
for having
us,
me.
Yes.
but talk to your spouse.
Yeah, talk to your spouse, talk to your therapist. But Daphne, I want to really thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for sitting with us on the couch.
That was fun. It wasn't as bad as I thought. I was stressed out.
I don't know why.
But you chilled out, you mellowed out, and we're
I
glad to have
did.
you.
Yeah.
But
I love
I
you,
hope
girls.
you guys will. I hope you guys will come back and be with us on the couch. Stephanie here. See you guys.
Jay.
I'm Sparkle Time.
Bye.
Bye.